Imagine the lack of the chain of custody in printing your own ballots, and sharing this technology with the private sector is concerning in and of itself, because sharing the technology allows for the printing of ballots. The United States Vote Foundation, you've got the same funding, and they are seeking state directories and mailing lists, which can be privatized and used. Pennsylvania Voice partners with Rock the Vote and online voter registration, access to the SURE system. You have to understand, voter registration in the past was always done by the county clerk for three primary reasons. The county clerk had three checks against the county clerk's conduct. One, they were elected, and if they failed, they could be removed. Secondly, they had a geographic definition for what they were doing, which was easy to audit. Thirdly, they have accountability to you, the media, because they have to respond to FOIA requests and open record requests to keep them accountable. Rock the Vote does not. These private groups do not have to share anything with you on how they're managing registration. They are not held accountable politically in any fashion. You can't vote them out. And there is really no way to effectively audit their entries into the voter rolls. So we created a fundamental portal that is a flaw on the front end of voter registration in our nation. I'm not saying Rock the Vote did anything nefarious, but when you have all these volunteers for this organization, none of them approved directly by government to be able to do this, you invite fraud. We can go to the next slide. Let's talk about CTCL. This is their top 21 grants. Again, that we've been able to discover because they're not an open organization. It reflects $81 million granted, every one of them to a city that Hillary Clinton, or a county that Hillary Clinton won in 2016. $81 million. Let's move to the next slide, please. About March of 2020, we started to see a couple of things that were concerning regarding the election. One was a score of friendly lawsuits. And I'll explain what I mean by that. The left initiated dozens, scores of friendly lawsuits to change the way the election is done. What I mean by a friendly lawsuit is when you sue an official knowing that they're going to agree with you, so that they don't put up a defense to your claim and actually settle it and give you all that you're asking for. I'll give you an example in Virginia where the League of Women Voters filed a suit saying that the witness requirement for absentee ballots under COVID was unconstitutional because it put people's health in jeopardy. That suit was filed against the Commonwealth of Virginia, where the Attorney General of Virginia, a role I had in Kansas, was tasked with defending the suit. In the first paragraph of that lawsuit, the League of Women Voters actually quoted the Attorney General of Virginia saying that the witness requirement is probably a violation of the Constitution because it's unsafe in COVID. Within 1 week, he capitulated in defending the Commonwealth and agreed to a settlement that eliminated the witness requirement on absentee ballots. Those suits were filed across the nation, challenging not only the witness requirement, but deadlines of counting absentee ballots, the requirement of a postmark, the requirement that the ballots be given to a clerk. All of the protections of the absentee ballots were challenged by the left in litigation, claiming that COVID prevented them from being carried out. That happened in March. For the Attorney General of Michigan to say that those who disagree with her should be investigated criminally, where was she in March when those on the left were undermining state law? That was passed by the legislature. Now, I don't believe any of them should be criminally investigated, but certainly it should have been spoken of that these lawsuits would undermine protection for the integrity of the absentee ballot. Why do we have those protections? Because the absentee ballot is cast away from the polling place. When you vote in person, there are persons trained to measure whether you're being intimidated, whether you understand, whether you're being coerced or being misled. Away from the polling place, none of those protections are present. That's why President Jimmy Carter and James Baker said that most fraud occurs with the absentee or mail-in ballots, and we need to protect that. And that is why most all states have some protections like signature requirements to compare signatures, applications for absentee ballots, requirements of witnesses for absentee ballots. All of those were eviscerated in this election, either through friendly litigation or through Mark Zuckerberg's monies and the dictates of what they would do. David Plouffe, March 2020, Mr. Plouffe wrote a citizen's guide for defeating Donald Trump. And on page 81 of that book, they said that it's going to come down to a block-by-block street fight in the urban core to turn out the vote if you're going to defeat Donald Trump.
St. Edmund, a student from your household by the name of Anthony, was absent from one or more periods today. Wednesday, December 16th, 2020.
Started to see CTCL, which is average about 1.2 million a year, suddenly reaching out to create grants. And they started calling Democrats. The Democrat mayor of Racine, Wisconsin, was contacted. And they said, look, we're going to give you, it was $100,000 total. But you're going to turn around and you're going to recruit Green Bay, Kenosha, Madison, and Milwaukee. Give them $10,000 each. So that the 5 of you can come up with a plan, and we got more money coming. So this small group gave out about 8% of its annual revenues to one city, and they knew more was coming because they were granted monies to recruit other cities, and they told them which cities to recruit. And with that, these 5 cities came up with, and it's pretty remarkable, the Wisconsin Safe State Voting Plan. Now you have to understand that federal law requires every state to come up with their own voting plan. They have to submit that plan to the federal government. In return, they receive federal dollars. They cannot change that plan unless they have public hearings. That plan requires that they treat every voter equally and disperses the funds in that fashion. Here, 5 cities claim to have their own Wisconsin Safe Voting Plan, and this was developed with Mr. Zuckerberg's money. In that safe voting plan by these 5 cities, which they claim for the whole state, they said they wanted to, and all of the effort is really to turn out the vote in these Democratic cities. It's not safety, it's turning out the vote. Encourage and increase absentee ballot, provide assistance to those throwing out the ballots. They actually hired witnesses for the ballots, because the absentee ballot required witnesses. How do you witness a ballot being filled out by a person whom you do not know? We generally require notaries to do that, not hire witnesses by Democrat officials. Deploy additional staff and technology improvements, and that was all paid for by Zuckerberg, and expand in-person curbside voting. I want to take a moment and have James step up here. I'm sorry, James, wait a second. I think it's a little bit later. Here are the grant numbers. No, come on up here. That's the Wisconsin Safe Voting Plan, James. Tell them about these grant numbers. Okay.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the press, American people. My name is James Carlson. I have the privilege to serve the Amistad Project and the American people. This slide right here in front of you is the Wisconsin Safe Voting Plan of 2020, and going from the vertical axis to your left, you'll see encourage and increase absentee voting by mail. So those are actually directives to dramatically expand strategic and voting education, launch poll worker recruitment, training and safety, and ensure safe and efficient election day and administration. What you have here is a plan that was developed by the 4 cities in Wisconsin to submit to CTCL in exchange for grant contracts. And so that's what's in front of you here. And there are cities, it's actually 5, Green Bay, Kenosha, Madison, Milwaukee, and Racine. And so working across, you begin to see the amount of dollars that have been allocated to,
And I want you to notice
to
how much
these
money is
cities.
allocated
Now,
towards
to give a little context to this,
this money is
Phill
going to
mentioned the HOV plan and the Help America Vote plan.
while at the same
So I'll
time
back
they're
out just a
primarily
little bit and
playing
describe it
this money was
for you
necessary.
so that we can understand it. The Congress
Voting
appropriates
absentee, this is
money
from the safety
to the Elections
election plan
Administration
by these 5
Commission,
cities in
the
CTCL.
EAC,
You'll see
in
it.
turn
You'll see it in state law.
disseminates
Or
that
they create
money
state
to the
laws that
various
have-
states
Voting
under
absentee
what
by
are
mail
called
has been
state
complicated
implementation
by the
plans. Those are public
imposition
implementation plans.
of state
They're
law
adopted by
required
the
voters to
various
provide for election.
legislatures. And
So in other words,
then
they are
the
finding
commission,
ways to
various
circumvent
commissions from
or
each of the
undermine
individual states,
that law passed by
those
the
commissions
state.
are responsible for
That's not the
administration
role
of
this.
elections throughout the
They should not
various
be doing
states. And so that's how the system works.
Here is
Here, we
Philadelphia.
have private money that
We
was
obtained these documents
injected at
pursuant to
the
court
last
orders
minute